All right, ladies and gentlemen, FSPN, Frankie from Flatbush, still a little bit under the weather. Apologize for the voice. Apologize for the drinking of the water. But we're getting better. We're getting better. Still a little bit under the weather as we hit February the 3rd, 2026. And we still do not know, as of 1,748 hours, who the offensive coordinator for the New York Jets is. Now, the New York Giants, we already know. Matt Nagy is going to come in and work with Jacksonian Dart. Well, what about the Jets? We don't know. What we do know is, well, per the reporting by Zach Rosenblather of The Athletic, Frank Reich, the Third Reich, was in Florham Park this morning. That was early this morning. We were hoping for an announcement sometime today. And as of right now, we got nothing. So we don't know what's going on, what's happening. It was reported by Country Club Connor Hughes that we just get it right here. Jets have no, that's not it. Was never given, this is what Connor Hughes had to say, quote, was never given indication this was falling apart about Reich, since he's in Florham Park today. Also, wouldn't surprise me to see the Jets add more than just him, and that would be in regards to Bevel and perhaps Greg Roman, the Roman Empire. And so somebody's saying, somebody's talking about Tua, hang on. $99 million cap hit. Why not? So, so we're waiting for this news that never came. And what we're going to talk about is the quarterback situation. In fact, I made a comment about something that Josina Anderson was reporting in relation to Bevel. Daryl Bevel's coming from Miami, so some people are putting Tua on our team because that's where Bevel was last time. Before that, Bevel was with, most famously, Russell Wilson, and the Seattle Seahawks went to the Super Bowl twice, and all of that. And so other people are putting Russell Wilson on our team. So, what we are going to do, instead of talking about the offensive coordinator, because we don't know who that is, we're going to talk about these quarterbacks. All right? All right. Let's talk about who the quarterback for the Jets is going to be next year. Now, before we figure that out, we got to know who in the league needs a quarterback and what are they likely to do this year. And the way I see it, there's really only two teams that are competition for us in the free agent market. All right, let's go through this. The Raiders, as you can see here, they're just going to draft Mendoza. They have the first pick. There's one surefire. Well, he's not surefire, but there's one very highly regarded prospect in the college ranks. It's Mendoza, so they just go ahead and take him. All right, the Jets, we're a question mark. The Cardinals, who are definitely competition. Now, the Cardinals have just hired Mike LaFleur, our former OC, as their head coach. And they could start Brissett, they could start Kyler, or they could trade him or release him, Kyler. But they might want to go in the first, so they could do anything. We don't know. They could just go. They could keep both of them. They have Jacoby Brissett under contract. They have Kyler Murray under contract. They could keep both of them and just say, let the best man win. It's an open competition. And maybe it's, and then they don't acquire anyone. That could be. Or they could want a better bridge. They could release Kyler with all of the dead cap ramifications. Likely they'll keep Brissett one way or another, either to start or be the backup because he's on a low-cost contract. Now, the Browns, what's their situation? Well, the Browns have Shador and Watson, Deshaun Watson. They're potential free agent competition for the Jets, but more than likely they need wide receivers and offensive line very badly. So it's not a good place for a rookie or young QB. Not a great place, maybe you might say, for Shador, but nonetheless, they're going to spend all their time bulking up the wide receiver and offensive line in free agency and the draft, and therefore might as well just start out with Shador, see what he can do. He only played 7 games last year, and if he fails, then you go to Deshaun. You paid him all this money. Maybe if they have a new coach, his name is Todd Monken. Maybe he goes back and looks at the tape of the Houston Texans and and uh, and figures out a way to use uh, Watson. He led the league in passing one year. Let's not forget about that. So that's the way that is, and uh, and then the Dolphins. So what the heck do you do? This is what I was just talking to somebody on on X about. Because Josina Anderson was saying, well, perhaps the Jets could trade for Tua. Somebody said, well, just wait for them to release him. Well, he's got a $99 million cap hit. If you release him, straight cut him. So they're not going to do that. They could spread that out over 2 years, but it's still a huge cap hit for them to release him. Maybe they go with Quinn Ewers. But to me, and so it could be free agency competition for the Jets one way or the other. If they release Tua, trade him. I don't think we're going to acquire him. I don't think that's what we're going to want to do under any circumstances. And so they probably will keep him and let Ewers win the job if he does, and then just keep Tua on the backup just in case, because they've got to get past this year for cap reasons with Tua. And there's not a lot of good options for them anyway. So maybe you just let Tua be a mentor to Ewers, and you hope Ewers is the guy. And if not, you go after it in 27. The Rams, they need a backup heir apparent for Stafford, so that's not a big deal for us. The Steelers, they're most likely, now that they have McCarthy, to sign Aaron Rodgers, or they could stick with Will Howard or Mason Rudolph, or they could draft Ty Simpson. So those seem like the likely scenarios for them. The Colts technically need a quarterback, but it seems very likely from everything they've said and done at the end of the year, that they're just going to re-sign Daniel Jones, and Jones would be smart to re-sign with them. The Vikings, they could need one only if they're ready to give up on J.J. McCarthy. Seems a little early to do that for me, but they also just fired Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, so you might say, well, that's why they fired his ass, because of McCarthy decisions, and therefore they're going to be in the free agent market, the significant free agent market. I'm not so sure. I think it's really the Cardinals and the Dolphins that are our competition. Now, that's good news because that's not a lot of competition. And here's the list of all the available quarterbacks that we could get that are realistic. And there's really 3 that are potential starters. And there's not a lot of good options here. Let me make it clear that, these aren't great options. You're not going to have great options at this point. So I have them in order of preference: Kirk Cousins, Malik Willis, Marcus Mariota. To me, those are 3 people that you could start. Now, each of them has their problems. Problem with Kirk Cousins, he's old. He's 38 years old. Problem with Malik Willis, well, he's only started 6 games in his whole life in the NFL. And even though he played really well last year and he's hitting the magical age of 27, Frankie's age 27 theory in full effect, you only have 6 games to go off. He started 1 game last year. 6 games in career, 3 in Green Bay, 1 game started in 25. So, and then you have Marcus Mariota. His problem, he's frequently injured. Now, SpotTrack and PFF have some projections out. You can see there's a big difference here for Willis. PFF says 20. SpotTrack says 10.6. And we don't know what Kirk Cousins would want, but he typically tries to get a lot of money, as everybody knows. Well, as well he should. Maybe he wants 20, maybe he wants 30. I don't know. Marcus Mariota projected only to make 5. So with only 2 teams to compete with, it would seem likely that we could get one of these 3 if we wanted to go this way. And I don't know what other real ways we could go, to be honest with you. Now, what about these other people? Pickett, Garoppolo, Trubisky, Howell, Minshew, DeVito, Russell Wilson. Those are the UFAs you could pick up right here in the second tier. None of these guys are really going to move the needle as far as a starter. We need a starter for next year. We got nothing. So none of those, each of these guys would be fine as a backup if you wanted to pick them up in addition to one of the big 3. Seems like there's always a big 3 of everything. But, excuse me. So if you wanted to pick up Cousins plus Trubisky or Cousins plus Howell or Cousins plus DeVito, that's fine. Well, what about trades? Well, you got Tua. He's 28 years old. You got Kyler. Look at these cap hits. If you have him on your team, $56.2 million cap hit next year for the Dolphins, 99 if he gets released. If he gets traded, I think it's 56 for the acquiring team. Kyler, 52. And also not a fit with AG, bad leader, does not study film, video game junkie, 2025 Anya, 4.72, which is poor. Tua connects to Darrell Bevel, who we might hire. And then Mac Jones. A lot of people like to talk about Mac Jones. Mac Jones is not going anywhere. There's no way the 49ers are trading that dude. I don't care what you offer them. Kyle Shanahan loves him. Loves him. And they've even said in the public eye, we're not trading him, essentially. Now, what about these people? These are sort of the lesser lights. McKee, Brissett, Dobbs, Rush, Browning, Levis, Smith, Winston, Dalton, Rattler, Locke. Now, some of these guys might end up getting cut, like Dobbs or Rush or Levis or Smith or Rattler or Locke. Right now, they're under contract. But I wouldn't trade a pick for these guys. Any kind of pick. So they're just not proven enough, or if they've played a lot, they just haven't been good enough. If Geno Smith were available for free, in other words, I could sign him for $10 million, all right. I could see that. Same thing with Drew Lock. If he gets released, he would be a good backup. Spencer Rattler would be fine for a backup. Will Levis would be fine to take a swing at if you could just sign him for money. Give him a $10 million deal. He's at the magical age of 27. See what he could do. But you can't trade for a guy like that. So, and you see they didn't get much snaps, these dudes. So in reality, I mean, you never know what's going to happen in this fucking NFL. It's wild. But the reality is there's really 3, as I see it, 3 quality, straight free agents. Now, Kirk Cousins is technically under contract right now, but the anticipation is he's going to be released for cap savings, the way they restructured his contract. But again, the Falcons, you never know. Stefanski and crew, they might redo the contract and say, Kirk, you're our guy. But then again, why would Kirk trust them? Because they got Penix coming back. The Falcons might want to keep Cousins there as a false failsafe for Penix in his knee and all that, even though he's reportedly ahead of schedule in his rehab and all that. And from a team perspective, you might want to keep Cousins around as a just in case. But from Cousins' point of view, does he really want that situation with Penix again? He was very disappointed when they drafted him. They signed Cousins to a $100 million deal plus, and then they drafted Penix and eventually lost the job to Penix. So I think he wants out of there because he wants a clear runway to play for the next 2 years. We can give him that. Now, the other thing with these agents, Vayner Sports is his agent. That is AJ and Gary Vaynerchuk. They own that. McCartney's the agent. AJ and Gary are the owners. If you know anything about the Jets, you should know that AJ and Gary Vaynerchuk are massive, like couldn't be bigger Jet fans on planet Earth. Go to every NFL draft from 1982. Have seen every snap the Jets have done, either on television or at the games since 1982. These people are massive, massive, massive Jet fans. And they're also very rich. So, because they're good business people. They own many businesses, not just this sports agency called Vayner Sports. Does that mean that all their clients are going to the Jets, Frankie? No. No, they've proven that. Tyler Conklin is their agent, is their client. The Jets didn't want him. He went over to the Chargers. Maybe we could bring him back. But in a situation so it doesn't mean that all the Vayner Sports clients are coming to the Jets. That would be a terrible way to run a sports agency. But in this case, where there's a perfect fit, and all you really have to do is convince Kirk Cousins that it's the right spot for him, which I think is very easy to do compared to these other fakakta teams. I mean, we're competing with these people. And, what do the Cardinals have? They had the 21st ranked defense last year, DVOA-wise. They got Maserati Marv, and they got Trey McBride, and that's it. Their O-line isn't great. They got no running game to speak of. James Conner probably on his way out, and the O-line's not great. They don't have any wide receivers in addition to, other than Maserati. So how's that a good situation? And a new head coach nobody knows anything about. I mean, in terms of being a head coach, Mike LaFleur. The Dolphins, if they somehow manage to get rid of Tua and eat the money, they're not going to have the money to pay him. So that's not a good fit. Plus, they just have Jalen Waddle and Devin Achane and no offensive line to speak of. And turnover. They have a defensive coach now, Halfley. So that's not a good fit. So I think all we got to do is probably convince Kirk that, hey, the media reports are exaggerated. They're not true. Or at least it's a better situation than you might think. Look at all the things we have, including, I think, A.D. Mitchell is an underrated asset that we have, especially if we can sign AVT before free agency or Simpson, some of our own free agents, bulk that up and get it going. I think that's the play. Now, if that falls through, probably we go for Malik Willis. But again, that's a roll of the dice. But you would make, if Kirko says no, you make the same case to David Mulugeta as you did Mike McCartney and the Vayners with Willis. This is the place for you. And not only that, if you could tell Kirk Cousins, look, for the last we'll give you 2 years here. And if you get us 9 or 10 wins, that's it. That's all we're asking for. 9 or 10. People, Jet fans will love you till the end of time. We will build 10 statues for you. And then I guess the ultimate fallback would be Marcus Mariota, but that would be very underwhelming. Now, this whole situation is very underwhelming. But we need at least a bridge for next year, and it seems to me Kirk Cousins is the best option out of a bunch of bad options. I would pair him with Howell, somebody with some upside, but I could also see Russell Wilson, Mr. Positivity, a little corny, but maybe that's a way to get rid of the mope in the building, a Kirk Cousins, Russell Wilson pairing, and if it fails, all right, probably Glenn's gone, and, we got 3 picks in 27, and we're here again with another losing team and a lot of toxic Jet fans. But that's how it seems to me in terms of all these options. And if you have any comments or questions, write them down. Save them for Coffee with Frankie. We do Coffee with Frankie Sundays live. That's the best place to get your questions asked and answered. Otherwise, give the video a thumbs up. Consider joining the Inner Circle where you get exclusive items. And subscribe to the channel. Subscriptions are free. Joining the Inner Circle is not, but it's only $2 a month. You really may want to consider it. That being the case, I will see you next time.